Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
The next production from director Emma Rice and her company Wise Children will be a new stage adaptation of the classic Alfred Hitchcock Cold War thriller North by Northwest, which originally starred Cary Grant and Eve Marie Saint as Roger Thornhill and Eve Kendall. In this production, adapted by Rice from the 1959 film, those roles will be taken by Ewan Wardrop and Patrycja Kujawska, who will both be familiar to fans of the past work of Emma Rice with Wise Children, Shakespeare's Globe and Knee-High Theatre Company. A week before previews at York Theatre Royal, I spoke to Patrycja and asked her to explain what North by Northwest is about for anyone who has not seen the film.
North by Northwest, it's a story about a middle-aged man, Roger Thornhill, who is very successful, very happy in his life, sorted, and all of a sudden he's been mistaken for someone else, and his life is turning upside down. And he goes on a quest to prove his identity and his innocence. And on his way, he is meeting Eve Kendall, who decides to help him. Or is she helping him, really?
Yes, and you're the Hitchcock blonde, which seems to be a romantic interest, but with a bit of a twist into it.
That's right. I can't say too much about that character without giving it, too much away. But yeah, it's an absolutely great part, which originally was played by Eva Marie Saint, and Roger Thornhill was played by Cary Grant. Well, our take is ever so slightly different. Have you got a comment?
Yes, I can imagine. But, many audiences are going to know the film quite well, so they'll have certain expectations. Have you referred back to the film while you've been rehearsing it?
I did, actually, but when I was offered the job around half a year ago, I watched the film because I didn't see it ever before, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it's so exciting and very fast-paced and funny and sexy and surprising. And then I kind of put that film on the shelf and didn't want to refer to it much more, trying not to mimic the original performances and trying to kind of come up with my own take on the character, really.
Yeah. Emma said that in a podcast recently I was listening to, she said that there is a lot more plot in this than she's used to, and if it turns out to be too long, it should really struggle to find things to cut. Have you noticed that it's different from a normal Emma Rice production?
Oh my God, it is. I mean, there's so much in it. I mean, it's a classic romp, isn't it? It's just, there's so much. I think we've counted, there's around 44 or 45 characters, and our cast is only 6 people. So, and it's all kind of distributed more or less evenly between us. We all play one of the main characters, and, I'll play another 4 or 5 little people which are just appearing for 3 seconds, and we don't have to invest in them too much. So, but certainly we are very busy, and you have to keep your wits about, and you have to really follow the story. But I suppose that's the joy of it. It really keeps you on your toes, and it's incredibly fun. Yeah. I think it's very timely. The whole plot. We thought, our last show, Wise Children show, was called Bluebeard, and it was touching subjects like violence and grief, and it was quite a dark, absolutely beautiful show, which was just wrenching our hearts and souls. And we thought, this one is going to be just a palate cleanser and just so much more light and entertaining and silly and virtuosic. But I don't know, it seems like, considering the political climate and where we are right now and how precarious times are, this show actually feels quite timely. There's talks about global security, about the United Nations, about, their spies. There are themes of loyalty and whose side you are on. It's big subjects. And I think, aside the whole fun in the show, that it's actually quite deep.
Yeah.
And important.
Yeah, I mean, if you think back to 1959 when the film first came out, those were big subjects in Europe and America.
Right, scary times.
Yeah, as we're coming into the Cold War and not long after the Second World War. So we do seem to be going into a similar sort of breaking up into camps, don't we?
That's right. I think the world seems to be divided, and it's just everything seems to be so black and white, and there is a lot of fear and hatred. And that show is also about that.
Yeah.
And whose side you're on.
Something else that Emma mentioned in the podcast was about the revolving door set, which sounds very complicated. How are you coping with that in rehearsals?
Oh my God, we've seen them yesterday. They were installing them on the stage, and they are absolutely magnificent and humongous. And we've had kind of like a mock-ups in our rehearsal studio, which were quite substantial, quite heavy, and tricky to operate. But these, the real ones, the real deal, is something else as well. So I'm actually looking forward to get on the stage and have a little play with them. So the set is actually quite simple. There's just the set of 4 revolving doors, which are moving in the rails from left to right. And they just shape the stage in such a kind of fascinating way. So as I say, it's very simple and very effective at the same time.
But technically, there's a lot to go wrong here, isn't there? She shouldn't make things easy for herself, does she?
I know. Well, no one said it's going to be easy. That's what Emma always tells us when we are kind of weeping with frustration and laughter at the same time. We've got almost a week until we open the first preview, so I think it should be right. We have to be right. There's no other way. We have to be right. It's going to be right.
The 2 big iconic scenes that from the film, I'm not sure how much you're allowed to give away, but I mean, one's on the poster, the crop spraying plane attacking him, and the other, of course, is the big finale on Mount Rushmore. Is there anything you can tell us about those scenes?
Oh my, no, I didn't. No, gosh, it's very inventive. It's kind of inspired. It's very theatrical. So we are not trying to recreate the movie. We are using the language of the theater just to show it. And I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Right.
I can't say anymore because that I will go away. I'm just going to say a lot of suitcases. There's a lot of suitcases in the show. So that revolving doors and hundreds of suitcases. But I won't say anything more.
Right. Suitcases is an Emma Rice thing as well. I mean, going right back to Red Shoes, there were suitcases in that, weren't there?
Yeah, I've seen that show too. Yeah, that's one of my favorite shows, actually. I think that's the second show me and Emma have done together. I was counting today, and this one, North by Northwest, is my 9th show directed by Emma, so we go a long way back. But yes, you are right. Suitcases were there. Emma thinks like this show is actually a lot of ideas from different shows are landing in this one as well. So it seems like she is just crafting her own language and bettering it. And it's so recognizable. You know, she's such a particular theatre director, and you can't imitate really.
Yeah, definitely. So what is a rehearsal? You've done 9 shows now, so you and Emma know each other very well. What's a rehearsal process like with Emma? I imagine that it starts off with a lot of fun and a lot of playing around, and then it gets very technical and very involved as you try to put it into practice. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. She's not one of those directors who like to sit around the table and read a script for a few days. Actually, on all costs, she would try to avoid sitting around the table. So we actually have done quite a lot of homework and learned the script before knowing that this show is going to be so physical that the sooner we are off book, we can just get involved and do stuff physically. And that's actually her process. We would dance quite early on. We would learn the choreography. There's lots of choreography in this show. It's very technical. There's very little space for improvisation or just going off piste. It's actually very well engineered and very precise, and there is a rigor, certain rigor. Yeah, but we have lots of fun. I think I haven't laughed so much for quite a while in the rehearsal space. I don't know, these people in the cast are so funny as well, and I think for the first time, Emma was saying, like, Patty, I've never seen you corpsing so much. I'm known to be quite serious and kind of like determined performer who never loses it. But like, my God, there was a few times that I was just crying with laughter and not being able to keep it together.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, how embarrassing.
Well, it's good to do it now before you get too close to the show itself, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You're working with a cast of quite a few people that you've worked with many times at Knee High and at Wise Children before. So do you have a sort of shortcut of language when you're communicating between each other and with Emma that makes it easy to rehearse?
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, especially with Emma or Katie Mary Owen, who I work with a lot, and Mirabelle Gilmore, also Ewan Wardrop, who is playing Roger Thornhill. So we know each other, and we are close friends. There is a lot of trust between us, and a lot of tomfoolery.
Yeah.
And camaraderie.
But not a great deal of room for collaboration in this in the rehearsal period that you've got.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing when you know people for quite a while, you can't hide behind your usual kind of tricks, and you have to reinvent yourself, and you have to find new things to surprise them as well, and grow as a performer and bounce off each other. It's interesting to kind of like, and Emma keeps coming back to those people who she worked with for many years. So there is a shortcut for sure, and there is trust, and there's lots of love, really, because we've been through a lot artistically over the years, and that's just brilliant. That's what we call it, kind of alternative families, we have.
Is there an Emma Rice actor? Because you're a dancer, singer, actor, musician. Everybody seems to bring not just one skill, but a whole variety of skills to the rehearsal room. So do you think there is a something that Emma looks for in a performer, something multi-skilled?
I think so. I think she likes people who have more than one string to their bows. But funny enough, half of us in the cast can play instrument and sing, and there is none of that in this show, and that is quite unusual. So there will be no live music. Imagine that.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic. I know I will not play violin. I think that's maybe the second show of Emma Rice that I am not coming anywhere near my violin. But there's going to be some lip syncing, I tell you. That's one of the kind of components in the show, and it features quite a lot in an interesting way.
That's interesting. But there is music involved.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of music. Simon Baker is responsible for an amazing soundtrack, which is just so energetic and so sexy, and it just kind of helps the story flow fantastically.
I've often wondered how the rehearsal rooms are different, going back to your Knee High days, with an Emma Rice production and a Mike Sheppard production, because they're both very different characters. I've spoken to Mike a few times. I see his productions as being more obviously political than Emma's, perhaps, in a different way. I remember you had quite a serious role in Dead Dog in a Suitcase as well, didn't you? How are they different to work with as directors?
Oh, I love them both dearly. And there's no way to compare them, really. On one level, Emma, I think, she might have a vision, quite a clear vision how she wants the show to look, what's the aesthetics and what's the pace. But she's quite visual, whilst Mike Sheppard is maybe a little bit more anarchic and chaotic, but in a good way. And that's where the kind of gold comes out of just absolutely being subversive and quite dangerous in a way.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare those. There's just kind of two different approaches, really. Yeah. But yeah. I love Mike's shows, which are just absolutely angry and loud. But maybe Emma is a little bit more poetic in her approach, in her adaptations as well, in her language.
Yeah.
But whenever she writes an adaptation of a play or a film.
The process of creating shows must be different now, and I've just been sent some of your rehearsal photos in a rehearsal room. It must be different being in a room like that to being at the Barns down in Cornwall.
You know what? I wouldn't say so necessarily. I think because the Wise Children's headquarters are now in Frome, in a gorgeous place called the Lucky Chance, which is an old chapel. And Emma Rice and the company Wise Children, they turned it into a fantastic place to rehearse, and there is a bar, and we show every year Little Magical, a Christmas show just for the community of Frome. And so there is something of the spirit from Barnes for sure there. and a certain kind of wild approach to work, slightly not, I don't know how to say it, not very institutionalized, maybe. That's a little bit freer and bonkers.
Yeah. So it's about a week before you start previews as we speak now, just less than a week. So what stage are you at the moment?
I am in the stage of, it's a manic stage.
Yes.
where I can't sleep very well. Actually, we are all a little bit like that. It's hard to switch off. We wake up during the night, like at 3 or 4 o'clock. We can't sleep anymore. Like for 2 hours, we go through the lines in the script. All the music from the shows, all the steps are, torturing us. It will end. I recognize that place.
Yes.
I go twice or 3 times a year when I do a new show, and it goes away. And then you open the show, and it settles, and then you're off on tour, and then you change, one place to another, from one city to another city, one venue to another, and then it's another task in front of you just to keep it fresh and keep it still interesting. Show number 85, and how not to do it in a too polished way and to say it's a journey, I suppose.
Yeah. Does it help when you're changing venues? Does it help to keep it fresh? Because you open in York, that's right, isn't it? And then you come to near me in Manchester after that, where I'm hoping to see it.
Yes, of course it helps. Of course it helps. There are different audiences in different cities, I suppose. We are going to Liverpool, one of my favorite cities as well. I mean, the audience in Liverpool is something else. They're just so lively, and when they meet you in the streets, they chat to you, and they are so eager to tell you how much they enjoyed the show, and they ask lots of questions. That's just so brilliant, I suppose, different than in London. But I mean, it's just exciting to be on tour. It can be tiring. It is not also easy when you've got the family and you have to juggle those 2 worlds together. But hey, that's the life I've chosen.
Indeed. Do you, what else do you have coming up? Do you have anything else coming up after this?
This goes almost until summer, so I can't even begin thinking beyond that. But yeah, I think we are until the end of June. And then probably I will just go home and be a mother and a wife for some time. And just recuperate. We will see. It's too early.
That was Patrycja Kujawska, who will play Eve Kendall in the Wise Children production of North by Northwest, adapted and directed by Emma Rice, which runs at York Theatre Royal from the 18th of March to the 5th of April 2025, before touring to Home Manchester, Liverpool Playhouse, Bath Theatre Royal, Everyman Theatre Cheltenham, and Alexandra Palace Theatre in London, where it closes on the 22nd of June. For more information, contact any of the venues or see www.wisechildren.co.uk.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.